your network, or even your experience. It's belief. Not blind optimism, but the quiet, steady confidence that no matter what, things will fall into place. Not because they always have, but because you choose to show up as if they will. The most successful people I've ever met don't wait for certainty. They act with the conviction that everything is happening for them, not to them. And that's what changes the game. You don't need proof before you believe. That's one of the hardest truths for many people to accept. We grow up being taught that belief should come after the evidence, that you should wait until you see results, or guarantees, or signs from the universe before you take a leap. But what I've learned again and again from working with great leaders and visionary thinkers is this: they don't wait for proof. They act from belief. The most powerful changes we ever make begin with a choice, not a confirmation. A choice to show up as if success is possible, as if the goal is already in motion, as if the right doors will open not because we've seen it happen yet, but because we believe they will. That's not wishful thinking. That's strategy. Because belief isn't passive, it's a force that activates behavior, and behavior creates momentum. When someone acts as if everything always works out for them, they aren't ignoring reality, they're shaping it. And that shaping starts with belief. Belief sets your expectations. It changes the quality of your questions. It makes you curious instead of cautious. People who lead with belief ask, "What if this works?" instead of, "What if I fail?" And that shift in focus makes all the difference. Let me give you an example. Two people walk into a room full of opportunity. One believes they belong there. The other doubts they do. Same room, same people, same potential. But one person starts conversations, takes initiative, offers value. The other holds back, waits to be invited, second guesses themselves. The difference isn't talent or intelligence, it's belief. Belief shapes behavior. Behavior creates results, and results become the evidence. That's the cycle. But you have to start with belief. And yes, there will always be people who call that naive, who say, "Be realistic." But I'll tell you what's more realistic: starting with belief and building something, even imperfectly, is far more powerful than waiting for perfect conditions that never arrive. The truth is, most of the people we admire didn't know what they were doing when they began. They weren't special. They weren't chosen. They were just willing to move without all the answers, to trust something deeper than logic. The belief that what they were doing mattered and that it would somehow work out. And that belief, it's contagious. When you show up in the world with conviction, people notice, they lean in, they trust you. Not because you have all the right answers, but because you carry a sense of direction. You create a gravity. That's what leadership looks like, not certainty, but confidence in the possibility. When you act as if everything always works out for you, you're not being arrogant. You're not assuming you'll never face obstacles. You're simply choosing not to be paralyzed by them. You're saying, "I may not know how this ends, but I believe I'm meant to be here. I believe the path will reveal itself if I keep walking." And sometimes that belief is all you have at the beginning. That's okay. That's enough. The key is not to wait until you feel ready. You'll never feel fully ready. You'll never have all the facts. But if you believe in your capacity to grow, to adapt, to overcome, then you can move forward even when the path is unclear. The question is, what story are you telling yourself? Are you telling yourself that success is reserved for the lucky few? Or are you telling yourself that maybe, just maybe, things are lining up in ways you can't yet see? One story keeps you stuck. The other moves you forward. So don't wait for the evidence. Be the evidence. Act with the belief that your next step matters, that your effort counts, that even the failures are forming something meaningful. That belief isn't just where you begin, it's what carries you all the way through. Because belief, not proof, is what starts the journey that changes everything. You ever notice how the stories we tell ourselves shape everything about how we experience the world? It's subtle, but it's powerful. Our brains are constantly searching for patterns, for meaning, for reasons to move forward or pull back. And the narrative we choose, how we explain our circumstances, our past, and our future literally changes the way our brains function. It changes the way we feel, the choices we make, and ultimately the results we get. When you decide to act as if everything is working out for you, you're not just adopting a mindset, you're rewriting the story your brain believes. Because your brain, in its incredible but sometimes flawed way, is wired to protect you from harm. It wants to keep you safe, so it's always scanning for threats, for risks, for reasons to hold back. If your story is one of scarcity, failure, or doubt, your brain locks into that. It sees obstacles everywhere, and it amplifies fear. But when you shift your narrative to one where things are working out, where challenges or opportunities and setbacks are lessons, your brain starts to look for evidence that supports that story. It looks for solutions instead of problems. It wakes up your creativity and your resilience. Instead of shutting down in the face of difficulty, it says, "How can we fix this? What's the next step?" Think about it like this. If you wake up every morning telling yourself, "Today is going to be hard, and I'm probably going to fail," your brain is going to prime your body to expect stress. Your heart rate might be elevated, your muscles tense, your focus scattered, you'll unconsciously avoid risks and second-guess decisions, and when things do get difficult, it confirms your story. "See, I knew this wouldn't work out." But if you wake up and say, "Today, things are going to work out. I'm going to find the path forward, no matter what," your brain shifts gears. It calms your nervous system, it sharpens your focus, and it drives you towards solutions. Suddenly, the same obstacles don't feel as overwhelming. You start noticing possibilities instead of problems. You become more resourceful, more adaptable. This is why acting as if everything works out isn't just about positive thinking. It's about neuroscience. It's about rewiring the way your brain responds to life's challenges. When your internal narrative is positive and forward-focused, your brain creates new neural pathways that support resilience and creativity. You start building habits that reinforce that story. And over time, this becomes your default way of operating. This also explains why so many people get stuck in cycles of doubt and negativity. When your brain is wired to expect failure, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't see the opportunities because your brain filters them out. You don't take risks because your brain warns you of danger. You play small because your brain tells you that's safer. But here's the incredible part. You can change the story. You can retrain your brain to expect success. You do this not by ignoring reality or pretending everything is perfect, but by deliberately choosing the narrative that serves you. When you face setbacks, remind yourself that these are just temporary roadblocks. When doubt creeps in, consciously shift your thoughts to what's possible. When fear shows up, acknowledge it, then move forward anyway. And the more you do this, the more your brain adapts. You begin to see patterns of opportunity where others see only risk. You start trusting your intuition and your judgment. Your confidence grows not because everything is guaranteed to go right, but because your brain has learned to look for ways to make it go right. This is the power of the narrative. It's not about denying problems. It's about choosing where to focus your energy. When you act as if everything is working out, you tell your brain to look for solutions, to lean into possibility, and to create momentum. And momentum is everything. It's what propels you forward when the road is tough, when the future feels uncertain, and when you can't see the finish line yet. So, understand this. The brain follows the story you tell it. Choose that story wisely. Act as if everything is working out not because you have proof, but because by doing so, you give your brain the signal to create the proof. And when you do that, you open yourself up to a world of possibility that otherwise remains hidden. Because the story you live by becomes the story you tell the world. We often tell ourselves that certainty is something we have to find before we act. We wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect set of conditions before we take a step forward. But the truth is, certainty is not something you stumble upon like a hidden treasure. It's something you build. You create certainty through your willingness to move forward, even when you don't have all the answers. Think about the people who have achieved remarkable things, whether in business, art, or social change. They didn't wait for everything to be clear and perfect. They stepped into the unknown with imperfect information. They made decisions without guarantees, not because they were reckless, but because they trusted in their ability to adapt and learn along the way. That's the kind of certainty that lasts, the kind that comes from experience, resilience, and faith in yourself. Waiting for certainty is often a disguised form of fear. It's the fear of failure, the fear of making a mistake, or the fear of the unknown. So we tell ourselves, I'll start this project when I have more data, or I'll take the risk when the timing is right. But what happens in that waiting? Time passes, opportunities slip away, and momentum slows to a crawl. The irony is that the more you wait for certainty, the less certainty you actually create. Because certainty is not external, it's internal. It's built in the doing, in the trying, in the persistence through the setbacks. When you act as if things will work out, you are essentially choosing to be the person who builds certainty from the ground up. You accept that you won't have all the answers, but you trust that you'll figure them out. You embrace discomfort and uncertainty as part of the process, not as reasons to stop. This doesn't mean you act blindly or without thought. It means you make the best decision you can with the information you have, and then you commit. You learn from what happens, adjust your course if necessary, and keep moving forward. That's how certainty grows. It grows from action, reflection, and refinement. Let me be clear. This is hard. It's uncomfortable to step into the unknown. But discomfort is where growth lives. If you want to be certain, you have to be willing to feel uncertain first. You have to take that first step without a guarantee, trusting that each next step will become clearer as you go. The people who achieve great things don't wait to feel ready. They create readiness by starting. They build confidence by doing. And they find clarity by moving forward. This is a fundamental shift in how we think about leadership and success. It's not about waiting for the perfect plan or the perfect moment. It's about starting with what you have and who you are, and trusting that you'll grow into the future you want. The question then becomes, are you willing to start before you feel ready? Are you willing to embrace uncertainty as a necessary part of the journey? Because certainty isn't found in waiting, it's found in moving. When you act as if everything always works out for you, you're not pretending that you know exactly how it will unfold. You're acknowledging that you don't have all the answers, but you trust that you'll find them along the way. That trust creates a foundation stronger than any plan, because it's built on adaptability and resilience. So don't wait for certainty to arrive like a visitor. Build it from within. Step forward with imperfect information. Make decisions with confidence because you trust your ability to learn and adjust. That's how certainty grows step by step, choice by choice, action by action. And the moment you do that, you take control of your future in a way that waiting for certainty never could. Because certainty is not a condition to be met, it's a muscle to be exercised. Move forward, even when the path isn't clear, and certainty will follow. One of the most profound shifts you can make in life is to treat every setback, every disappointment, every moment of frustration not as a failure, but as feedback. When you start to see the world this way, everything changes. Acting as if everything always works out for you isn't about ignoring the difficulties or pretending they don't exist. It's about reframing those difficulties so that they serve you rather than stop you. Feedback is a gift, but only if you're willing to receive it. Often, when things don't go as planned, our first reaction is to resist, to blame, to feel defeated. That's natural. Our brains want to protect us from pain and discomfort. But if you can pause and ask, what is this experience teaching me? You begin to open a door to growth. You start to turn obstacles into stepping stones. When you act as if everything works out, you approach challenges with curiosity instead of fear. You ask questions like, what can I learn here? How can this make me stronger? What's the next best step I can take? This mindset doesn't eliminate hardship, but it transforms your relationship to it. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and start seeing yourself as an active participant in your journey. Consider the people who have achieved great success not because everything went smoothly for them, but because they kept showing up and adapting. They didn't let setbacks define their story. Instead, they used every setback as data to adjust their course. They understood that progress isn't a straight linear, it's a series of trials, errors, and course corrections. The truth is, Feedback is everywhere. If a project fails, if a relationship hits a rough patch, if you don't get the outcome you wanted, these are all messages. They tell you something about what's working and what isn't. If you can tune in without judgment, without frustration, you gain clarity. You can see what needs to change, where to focus your energy, and how to improve. This approach requires humility, the willingness to admit you don't have all the answers, and courage, the willingness to keep going even when it's uncomfortable. But it also requires optimism. Optimism not as blind positivity, but as a conviction that every challenge has the potential to lead to growth if you let it. When you act as if everything works out, you also build resilience. Because resilience is less about bouncing back quickly and more about staying committed in the face of adversity. When you treat setbacks as feedback, you don't get stuck in discouragement. You see failure not as an end, but as a necessary part of learning and refining your path. It's important to recognize that feedback isn't just about what went wrong, it's also about what went right. Sometimes we get so focused on what didn't work that we overlook what did. When you act as if everything works out, you pay attention to both. You celebrate the wins, no matter how small, and use them as fuel to keep moving forward. That balanced view keeps you motivated and grounded. This mindset also changes how you handle criticism from others and from yourself. Instead of taking it personally or as a judgment of your worth, you learn to extract the useful information. You separate your identity from your performance and focus on growth. This is a powerful shift because it frees you from the fear of judgment and opens the door to continuous improvement. Every successful person has had moments of doubt and failure. What sets them apart is their ability to turn those moments into lessons. They don't get paralyzed by setbacks, they get propelled by the insights those setbacks provide. They build their confidence, not on never failing, but on their capacity to learn and adapt. So when you find yourself facing challenges, don't recoil or retreat. Lean in. Ask, what is this telling me? How can I use this to get better? How can I turn this obstacle into an opportunity? That's how you take control of your journey. That's how you act as if everything always works out for you, not because life is perfect, but because you're committed to growing through it. This perspective changes everything. It turns pain into power. It turns setbacks into stepping stones. It turns frustration into fuel. And that's the mindset that keeps you moving forward, no matter what comes your way. When we talk about acting as if everything always works out for you, one of the most essential elements is the power of persistence. Persistence is the force that keeps you moving forward when everything inside you is telling you to stop. It's what separates those who succeed from those who give up too soon. But persistence isn't just about stubbornly pushing against a wall. It's about a deeper commitment to your vision, your purpose, and yourself. Think about the times in your life when you faced real challenges, moments when giving up seemed easier, when the obstacles felt too great, when the outcome was uncertain. What made the difference between those moments when you moved forward and those moments when you didn't? Most often, it's persistence. It's the willingness to keep going, not because you know exactly how it will turn out, but because you believe in the possibility that it will. Persistence is a mindset, a choice. It's choosing to show up again and again, even when the path is unclear, even when you don't see immediate results. It's about trusting the process and understanding that progress is rarely linear. Success is not about a single breakthrough moment, it's about a series of small, consistent actions taken over time. When you act as if everything always works out, you cultivate a kind of resilience that doesn't rely on circumstances being perfect. You develop a confidence that says, I don't have to have all the answers today, but I will figure it out tomorrow. That confidence fuels persistence because it shifts your focus from immediate outcomes to long-term growth. Persistence also requires patience. In a world that prizes instant gratification, it's easy to get discouraged when results don't come quickly. But the most meaningful achievements, whether in relationships, careers, or personal growth, take time. They require sustained effort and the willingness to face setbacks without losing your commitment. This is why acting as if everything works out is so powerful. It's not about ignoring failure or difficulty. It's about believing that every step you take, no matter how small or slow, is part of a larger journey toward success. That belief gives you the strength to keep going when others might quit. Another important aspect of persistence is learning to adapt without losing sight of your goal. Sometimes the original plan doesn't work out, and that's okay. Persistence doesn't mean rigidly sticking to one way of doing things. It means being flexible enough to try new approaches while staying committed to your vision. When you're persistent, you don't see obstacles as reasons to stop. Instead, you see them as challenges to overcome, lessons to learn, and opportunities to grow. You develop the mindset that every setback is temporary and every difficulty is a chance to become stronger. Persistence also builds momentum. Each small success, each step forward, creates energy that propels you onward. Momentum makes the journey easier because it builds your confidence and your capacity to handle future challenges. The more persistent you are, the more momentum you create, and the easier it becomes to keep going. And perhaps most importantly, persistence builds character. It teaches you about your own strength and capacity. It shows you what you're truly made of. When you persist through difficulty, you not only move closer to your goals, you become the person who can achieve those goals. This is why persistence is not just a strategy for success, it's a way of being. It's a commitment to yourself that no matter what happens, you will continue to move forward with faith and determination. It's about acting as if everything always works out because you trust that your persistence will carry you through. So when you face moments of doubt, remember this: persistence is your greatest ally. It's the quiet force that keeps you going when the world tells you to stop. It's the belief that no matter how many times you fall, you have the strength to rise again. Keep moving forward. Keep showing up. Keep believing that everything works out, not because it's easy, but because you refuse to give up. There's something incredibly powerful about the company you keep. When you act as if everything always works out for you, one of the most important things you do is surround yourself with people who believe in possibilities not just for themselves, but for you as well. The people around you don't just influence your mood or your thoughts. They shape your worldview, your confidence, and ultimately your reality. Think about it. Who you spend your time with has a profound impact on your energy and your mindset. If you're around people who constantly doubt, who focus on problems instead of solutions, who expect failure or setbacks at every turn, it's easy to absorb that negativity. It seeps into your thinking, it chips away at your optimism, and slowly, without even realizing it, your belief that everything can work out starts to erode. On the other hand, when you surround yourself with those who embody hope, resilience, and belief, it fuels your own ability to act as if everything will work out. These are people who don't just see the glass half full, they see it as overflowing. They understand that challenges are temporary and that persistence, learning, and belief will lead to success. Their mindset becomes contagious. But it's not just about positive vibes or cheerleading, it's about intentional influence. When you commit to acting as if everything always works out, you are consciously choosing to let the right people into your life. People who challenge you to grow, who push you to be better, who hold you accountable to your highest vision. These are the people who will remind you of your purpose when you feel lost, who will encourage you to take risks when you're afraid, and who will celebrate your wins, no matter how small. This is why community matters. No one achieves greatness in isolation. Every success story you've ever heard has been supported by a network of people mentors, friends, family, colleagues who believed enough to invest their time, energy, and sometimes even their resources. They provided not just encouragement, but perspective, wisdom, and sometimes tough love. Surrounding yourself with the right people is also about recognizing who doesn't belong in your inner circle. It takes courage to distance yourself from those who drain your energy or diminish your dreams. It's not about cutting people out harshly or creating an echo chamber where you only hear what you want. It's about protecting your mindset and your mission by prioritizing relationships that align with your highest potential. Another layer to this is the influence you have on others. When you act as if everything works out, you become a beacon of possibility for those around you. Your mindset, your resilience, your faith in the outcome can inspire others to adopt the same attitude. In that way, your circle is not just a source of support, it's a community of mutual growth and empowerment. It's also important to realize that the energy you bring to your relationships matters. Are you the person who lifts others up or the person who pulls them down? When you commit to acting as if everything always works out, you naturally cultivate a mindset of generosity, encouragement, and openness. You become someone who believes in abundance rather than scarcity, someone who understands that success is not a limited resource, but something that grows when shared. The truth is, life is too complex, too unpredictable, and too challenging to navigate alone. The right relationships act as anchors in the storms and as fuel in moments of calm. They remind you of what's possible and keep you grounded in who you are and what you're working toward. So, if you want to truly live